Welcome back to Teen Minds Redefined, where we bring you inspiring stories with these impactful guests. And today is absolutely no exception. Today we have Aime Hutton. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Aime, I'm reading your stuff and I'm watching you on social media, which is where I found you. Your energy was just so magnetic. But when you look behind the scenes, you are just this beautiful, bright flashlight, I think, in some kids' very dark world. And I love that you shine that light. And I can't wait to have the conversation. Welcome, Aime Hutton, a fellow Canadian.
Yay! Hello, Cheryl. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we met on that teen parent Facebook group. I don't do much in that group because I'm not a parent. Yet every now and then I'll pipe in and share, and I did. And obviously it was needed to be heard because it was quite the conversation. So
Yes. And I'm a parent. My kids are grown adults now, 34 and 31. But I chime into these groups because the podcast is started out as just helping parents with teens.
mm,
And then it became it just starts within, like it starts with us as parents for many, many of these issues. And when we're just giving strategies, it almost feels like a band-aid. And strategies are wonderful.
mhm.
But when we can tap into ourselves and figure out what it is that's triggering us or what's scaring us or why we're reacting the way we are,
Yep.
and we can work on that, then doing that inner work just ripples out to the people we love, period, without having to put all the band-aids on. So this is where we're starting. Aime, tell us, first of all, about you, how you got here, why this is your story.
Wow. Well, like many people, stories have layers. And, I have a funny feeling I'll be coming back another day to share a few other stories. In a nutshell, how I like to, start explaining who I am is that back in when I was first born in 1976 in Ottawa, I was born at 26 weeks gestation. I was 1 pound, 12 ounces when I was born and given 24 hours to live. So there's a reason why I'm here on Earth, and it's taken a while for me to figure that out. Yet now I know. I went through childhood bullying, severe bullying, actually, to that account. And back in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't called bullying. It was just called part of school life.
Yeah.
And, got through that, got into university, was in an abusive relationship while in university and was stalked as well while on campus. And then I moved out here to Calgary after graduating university. And it took, a long time to get established and get settled. And but I really enjoy living here. I love that I'm an hour from the mountains. Although I will say I miss the lakes, like being from Ontario, Pickering, Ontario, to be exact. I do miss Lake Ontario, and I miss those lakes and cottage country and stuff like that. And then going on into my life, I do work full time on top of my entrepreneur work. And I love my job that I have, helping. Most of the time I'm helping folks with pre-employment skills and job finding, and then networking with employers and things like that. It's an awesome place to work. And then on the side, in my free time, I also am a part-time entrepreneur. And what I do there is I help youth and adults from diversified communities feel safe and supported and welcomed in all areas of their lives. I started out my business, though, working with teen girls. And then it's kind of morphed as people change, it morphed from there. So now the youth I have the most fun working with are the 11 to 14-year-olds and helping them with their coming out journey, because it is a journey and it can be really scary. I know here in Alberta, especially with all the political stuff that's going on right now here, it can be really scary for kiddos right now.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask, why 11 to 14? What is the sweet spot there?
Oh, I think partly when I first started my business, the 11 to 14 age is that grade 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9, depending on your birthday and, things like that. When I was being severely teased and bullied, it was in that grade 7, 8 time frame.
Yeah.
So I know what it's like to be bullied. This is coming out of my mouth, so I might as well say it. Part of my bullying story is in gym class in grade 7. I was in a 7-8 split, and the bullies were in the change room, obviously, and one came up behind me and grabbed me by my bra strap and flung me around the room, and I went flying into the lockers.
Oh my God.
So I know the pain. I know what these kids are going through.
You know, I spent 25 years at high school and then the last 3 years at a private school. And the private school was grade 7 to 12. And I just still to this day, it's just so unbelievable. So when I first started teaching, of course, the social media aspect wasn't a part of it. That's how old I am. And that's how much I love that. But now it just adds like 12 different layers to what kids are doing. And I'm looking at these grade 7s going, what the heck? And the bullying and the mean girls and and it doesn't matter where you are. Like this was a very small Christian school with 300 kids, and it was equally as destructive and cruel and innovative, like, and not in a good way innovative, how people can bully, as
Yep.
it was when I was in a high school with 2,000 kids, grade
Yep.
9 to grade 12. It just
Yep.
didn't, I thought, oh
Yep.
my
I
gosh.
know there's parts of me that are very glad I grew up. I was in school as a young person, in that mid 80s, early 90s, time frame, because we didn't have social media. I could, walk out my school door and go home and I was okay, because for me, home was a safe space. I know
Yeah.
that isn't the case for all kids, yet at least I know I could go home and I'd be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. We're gonna come back and do, I think, a whole bully segment. What I really want to talk about today, which really grabbed my attention and your energy on social media, was helping parents when their kids are coming out and helping kids when kids are coming out. And it's not, I find it so hard. I empathize with the kids. I feel it's just if you don't have a mom or dad who's accepting you, I'm your new mom. That's no problem. I what is it? Like what is it that is so hard for parents? And here's my story. My daughter at oh my goodness, I'm going to say 25, no, maybe 20, I had no indication whatsoever. She got in the car one day and said, "Can you drive me to the train station? I have a date." I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Who do you have a date with?" And Gabby said, "Julie." And it took me a second and I said, "Okay, cool. Where did you meet?" And all, like, it was almost irrelevant, but it was relevant.
Mhm.
I'm so glad she trusted me in that moment. I'm so glad I reacted the way I did in that moment. And I know it's not, might not be typical,
Mm.
but it's also when you see the person that you love become this, like the bloom, as soon as you see that, as soon as you can, like, it was tangible.
Yeah.
How can you in any way, shape, or form go, that's not right? So it's, and I know that's not the case, and I'm not I just want more parents to hear these stories. I want parents to understand the impact of that first reaction, the impact of the continued reaction. And do you want to share your coming out story?
I would love to share my coming out story. Mine is uh, different, but not different, yet not different.
Mhm.
The one of the differences is that I came out to myself in 2018.
Wow.
So less than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was where I used to work. I had a friend who did shamanism and dream work and shadow work and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was explaining a dream to her. It was just lots of this dream had colors and symbols and just different things. And then she listened politely, and she's like, don't take this the wrong way. And I mean this with the most kindness and, everything. Yet, do you think you might be attracted to women and men at that point? And I was like, nope, hard pass. Nope, cannot be, not allowed to be. And she's like, okay, I'm going to leave that with you. Take it what you do, what you will. And here in Calgary, where I live today, I'm very grateful also to live on the Blackfoot Confederacy, Treaty 7 people, the home of the Métis region of Alberta, 3, I think they've now changed it to. And Calgary has 2 rivers that flow through the city. And I live in walking distance of one of a beautiful spot by one of the rivers. And I went there one day and I sat down and at my favorite tree and looked up at the heavens, and, hand on heart, hand on belly, and looked up and said, okay, goddess, who was I attracted to growing up? And I got quiet. And then in my journal, I brought a journal and a pen, and all these girls' names fell onto the paper. This girl in elementary school, that girl in high school, that girl in the swim team in high school, this woman I worked with, this lady in university, like all these women's and girls' names came flying in onto the paper. And I put my pen down. Actually, I dropped my pen and I cried. I was like, well, maybe I am. At that point, maybe I am attracted to women and men. And, looking back at my growing up years and my childhood years, there were a few signs that I could see now. Back in the 80s, one of my favorite shows to watch, because I was learning how to be a lifeguard and wanted to be a lifeguard and ended up being one, was Baywatch. And
yep.
I remember looking back at it now, like I wasn't really attracted to David Hasselhoff or the other men characters on the show. I wasn't even attracted to Pamela Anderson. I didn't like her, but there was another lady on the show, or another actress, that I was like, there was a couple of them. I was like, oh, she's kind of cute. But then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what's going on? I can't say anything. And then also too, growing up in my high school, university years, my mom and dad would make comments of, oh, the boys, do that whole hand flicky thing. And another thing, we were talking earlier before we started our show today about the internet and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Back in the mid 90s, was starting university, and that's still when your family had a computer and the family had an internet and had one email address. So if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to put their name in the email subject line.
Yeah.
So I was home from university in between years 1 and year 2. And I was looking on the emails, and I saw an email that had my name in the subject line, but it wasn't to me, it was about me. And it was from my sister, lovely woman. She's great. She has 2 kids. It was about me, and it was to her friend, mutual friend of ours now, who had just come out as gay. And remember, this is in the mid 90s. Okay. So it was kind of scary. They were still in high school, like my sister and everything. And my sister wrote to this friend and said, we think Amy's gay. What do you think? And this friend wrote back, and he's like, I don't know. I don't have that. Like, I can't tell. If she is, though, the main thing is, can you still love her and, accept her and stuff? The answer I read back was no.
Oh, no.
So I don't know if that no was just from my sister or from the family as a whole, right? Okay, so now jumping back, my parents asked me, they're like, I wore, stereotypical Doc Marten hiking boots and flannel shirts in high school and university, because I was an outdoor kid. Like, I did Girl Guides and camping, like, the whole 9 yards. So jumping back to 2018, when I said I can't be, that was why. It was like, I'm not allowed to be.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I sat with it for a year. In 2019, I was still feeling like an alien inside my own body. Didn't know who I could trust, didn't know who I could talk to. And I was in a course with a wonderful coach. The Uncommon Woman is her business name. And she had a course, a 6-week course online with virtual classes like this, all about overcoming fear. And it was really interesting because in week 3, I blurted out on screen that I'm, at that point, I'm bisexual with a lean to the feminine, and I haven't told my parents yet. And I was like, what just fell out of my mouth? Like, oh my God, right? So the class stopped, and my coach looked at me through the camera screen, and she goes, Amy, you're fine. We got you. We love you. You're okay. And then she kind of opened up to everybody. It was still talking to me, though. She's like, Amy, you are not living authentically as yourself. You help girls with their own being brave and being themselves. Nothing about the LGBT community at that point, but just about being okay, being themselves. You haven't told your parents, there's a disconnect. So really, when are you going to tell your parents? So for the whole group of us, she helped us write a letter as if when we need to tell somebody the truth and we're afraid to tell. So I wrote word for word what she said. And I didn't want to go to my parents right away. I still had a lot of that fear. Yeah. So I started with 2 of my cousins that I'm connected with on Facebook. We sent them a private message. And they were like, you're awesome. Then I moved to my sister. And that was where it got tricky because I'm like, I'm remembering back to that letter, right?
Sure, trauma,
like,
yeah.
I don't know. And I also put in that line, and I put a sentence in this email to my sister saying, if you don't want me to see or talk to my nephews ever again, I'm fine with that. I accept that. Because I had to be. Like, I had to be fully committed.
Yeah.
And hit send, and, next day or 2 comes back. And Aaron's like, my views and things have changed. You can see your nephews. They accept you. And then the bottom of her sentence, her email, it said, just pull up your put your big girl panties on and go tell mom and dad already. Oh. I was like, oh God, okay. So it was 10 p.m. here in Alberta, midnight in Ontario. And I wrote the same email, taking out that sentence about my nephews. Yeah. And I hit send, and I felt very sick to my stomach, and I cried myself to sleep. And then I woke up the next morning, and because of the time difference, I saw on my phone that they had already responded, and I cried. And I opened up the email, and it's like, thank you for telling us, Amy. That would have been really hard for you to do. We still love you. We still accept you. And then the bottom of her message, it was, we thought something was going on, and you would tell us when you were ready. And I guess you're ready. Oh. So that was 2019. Wow. Yeah. In 2020, I was working with the same coach doing one-to-one private counseling, or private coaching, sorry. And she's looking at me through the camera like this, and she's like, Amy, you're still holding on to something. Like, what is it? What's going on? What do you need to tell me? And I just started crying. And she's very intuitive, and she's looked at me, and she's like, are you really only attracted to women? Like, full stop. And I was like, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried. She's like, yeah, okay. Tell me, like, get it out. And I could only say it as a whisper. When I started, I was like, hi, I'm Amy, and I'm attracted to women. And it took me about 4 or 5 times to be comfortable saying that, hi, my name is Amy, and I'm attracted to women. From there, though, my life has not completely changed yet. It's done a really good trip around the sun, so to speak, we'll say. Yeah. I started dating, and that was kind of comical because this one girl that I wanted to date with, she's like, so how do you feel about sex? And I was like, thinking in my head, I've never had sex with a woman before, so I have no idea. Yeah. So that didn't work out. And then I met my now wife in 2021. We were on a few little dates. We met. So COVID was still happening at that point, right? Of course. And we met on Plenty of Fish, like a dating app. went out for a couple of dates. It was kind of funny because at one point, our first meeting we were going to have, she canceled last minute, like the morning of. We were going to go for breakfast. She canceled the morning of. And my one good friend at the time, she was like, Aime, the lady, like Tara is like catfishing you. I'm like, no, I don't think she is. I
Oh
don't
my
think
gosh.
she is. I think we're good. I think we're good.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and so we had a few dates, and then it was July of 2021. We were out at a place. If you ever come to visit, there's a beautiful spot outside the city in a town called Bragg Creek at Elbow
Mhm.
Falls, and we were out collecting rocks because one of the things we realized is we like to paint rocks and
Mhm.
put them back in the park. So we were out collecting rocks, and I had to go use the washroom, so we found an outhouse and went to the washroom. And sorry, my cat is deciding that right now he wants to climb on the curtain. That's why I'm looking away.
No problem.
So she, we found the bathroom, whatever, and I come back to the truck and get into her truck, and she hands me a little stone, and she wrote on it, "Will you be my girlfriend?" And I was
Oh.
like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, oh my gosh! Like, can I do this? Like the mind frick that went on was crazy. And I want to say that because parents listening, like, that's what's going on in your child's mind when they want to come out to you, is this whole like game in their head of, can I trust you? What's your reaction going to be? I'm afraid of your reaction. I don't know. Even if you're the most open and accepting and wonderful, amazing parents in the world, that mind frick is
Mhm.
going to happen.
Yeah.
So when Tara asked me to be her girlfriend, I was like, oh my God, like, can I really do this? Because of my past experiences in dating. But I said yes. And yeah, we had a spiritual commitment ceremony. We had a traditional Irish Celtic hand fasting.
Ooh.
If you follow me on social media, there's pictures every now and then that I've shared. The reason why we had an Irish Celtic hen fasting and not a ceremonial wedding
Mhm.
is because here in Alberta, and I'm guessing it might be the same in Ontario too, if you're in a couple and one
Mhm.
person is on disability payment from the government, like support payments from
Yeah.
the government, and the other person is not, you cannot get married because the government would have seen me as the one making more money, and okay, you can cover your partner's
Oh my gosh.
medical. That's a story for another whole day, but yeah,
But I'm glad you said that because people need to know. Oh my
so
gosh.
that's why we couldn't get married.
Wow. Well,
Two people. Thank
congratulations.
you. Thank you. It was a lot. It was really, really, it was a very, very intimate ceremony. Two friends of mine plus Tara's mom came, and my friend who is more on the spiritual side of things and
Mhm.
has done hand fastings before. She did our ceremony, and we interwove rainbow themes throughout. We our
Yeah.
hand are the hand fasting, like we were tied together.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And we used seven, they had to be odd numbers. So I said to Cheryl, my friend, I'm like, well, the rainbow is 7 colors. Can we just use the rainbow? And she's like, yep. So we had 7 tied around our hands. And she
Aw.
talked about the colors and the rainbow. And then we also did a sand ceremony. We just picked some water up from the Bow River.
Mhm.
And the sand we had is kinetic, so it doesn't dissolve and it keeps its shape. So we
Okay.
poured the sand into the water, and that was kind of a couple different things we did. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah,
What a great story.
yeah.
I wonder, as you were talking, how did your then coaching kids change once you spoke your truth? How did
Mm,
that change? How did that feel? What was the difference?
it felt like it landed. Like in podcasts and things that I do, I like to say, be brave, be bold, be yourself, or be you.
Mm-hmm.
That has taken on a whole new meaning. And so with the kids, it's like, yeah, be okay being yourself and be you, like be
Yeah.
authentically yourself. I give keynote talks to schools and to groups of youth, like, summer camps and, Girl Guides, things like that. And I do a talk about self-acceptance is my superpower.
Mm.
And how that self-acceptance of being true to myself. And I remember when I did it a year or so ago at the school, they were celebrating diversity and they were celebrating international culture, because it was a very international culture school.
Mm.
And there was kids in different traditional dress, and then there was this one kid at the back of the gym, and I saw them wearing a pride flag around their neck.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. And be yourself. And it was really fun because Tara came with me for this one. And my last slide is a picture about, me being me. My self-acceptance is my true superpower. And there's a picture of Tara and I in the mountains, actually. And it was fun because the kids looked at me, looked at the picture, looked over to the side of the gym and saw where Tara's sitting, looked back at me, and they're like, that's your, whoa!
There's the connection. Oh
There's the
my God.
connection. So it was really cool. And the kids are really good. Like, most of the time, I want to say most of the time, the kids are pretty cool with everything.
Yeah.
It's sometimes the teachers and the parents and other
Yeah.
caring adults.
Yeah.
So, I think when a child is ready to come out to you, regardless of their age, case in point, take a breath
Mm-hmm.
and say thank you. Say, what do you want to share anything else with me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Ask, say, does your child, do you have any questions? And, you being the parent or the caring adult, because sometimes kids are not going to come out to mom and dad first. They may come out to a soccer coach or a teacher
Yeah.
or the, Girl Guide or Boy Scout, Scouts Canada, like the
Yeah.
leaders, caring adults. That's why I like to call them just caring adults.
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. Do you have any questions? If you, the adult, don't know, tell the child that and say, you know what? Really good question. How about we go find this out together? Let's go to the library and go talk to the librarians, because librarians in your school or not in your school have a lot of knowledge and know what
Mm.
books will help with what you're needing.
Yeah.
So,
So I want to ask
yeah.
what parents are saying. Thank you. Parents are saying, like, thanks for trusting me, which I think is so important.
Mm-hmm.
What is the impact of this kid who feels like they can't come out at home? What, and I say this because, parents have their opinions and, oh, it's just a phase, or, all of this stuff.
Hmm.
And I want parents to be so aware of their language and their reactions because of the impact it has on kids or adults. They're adult children, doesn't matter. But what, I think as adults, I don't know if you agree, as adults, it's not that it's not as important, but you have more accessible community. Whereas a kid, it's mom and dad and sister and brother, and you're in the house and that's it. So if you can't come out at home to them, what is the impact? What is the lasting? Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go there.
Yeah.
Your child is going to die. As blunt as that sounds.
Yeah.
Your child does not trust you, does not feel safe, can't be themselves around you. On the inside, they're dying already because they can't trust you and they can't be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
and I wish I wrote it down, I don't have it in front of me. There's a statistic about youth in that time frame of the 11 to 14 age group, and a little bit, it's like a little bit younger, a little bit older. Yet the rate of kids attempting or successfully dying by suicide is higher if they are a part of the LGBT community, as opposed to cisgender heterosexual youth.
Yeah.
And the other caveat to that is youth who are part of the LGBT community are more likely, if they're not accepted by family, go run and they live on the streets and they're homeless. There's an amazing gentleman, remind me and I can introduce you to him. There's an amazing gentleman here in Calgary that was his story. He came out and his parents didn't accept him and he lived on the streets. And now in Calgary, he started this beautiful organization to help people in mostly downtown Calgary who sleep rough or unhoused. And it's a charity that he gives back. They do nightly walks in the city of Calgary, giving out food, blankets, toiletries, like whatever they want. Yeah. Be the Change YYC is his organization. He actually just, here in Calgary, we have the top 40 under 40, like awards and stuff. He was granted a top 40 under 40 because of his work and what he does. So to be very blunt, your child is going to die.
Yeah.
Or turn to substance, or turn to being, prostituting themselves, men, girls or boys, and gonna get that release of who they are.
Yeah.
In a different way that you would want them to.
And I ran the GSA at our high school, and a lot of kids would come in and come out at our lunch meetings and didn't feel safe. And some of them that did come out were really concerned about their grandparents' reactions and old school. And correct me if I'm wrong, how I felt about this and what I explained to them is that it may not be that they're not accepting you. It may not be anything about whether they love you or not, but they grew up in an era where anyone who was different was at very high risk. People bullied them, beat them up, all of those things. And they're thinking that's going to be your life. And it might not be anything to do with you coming out. It might not be anything to do with your identity, but their reaction, or even maybe parents' reactions, that's where their brain is going.
Yep.
So what do we say to parents who the initial reaction is, what are we saying? Like, how are we helping parents?
So their reaction is valid. Like, I think that might be also a reason why I was afraid to tell my parents, because my parents are, 70-ish in age. So yeah, it was that initial, they remember their high school days from, I want to say, roughly the 1950s-ish, maybe 60s. And what that was like. So for the baby boomer generation, or even the silent generation, because that's what Tara's mom is. Tara's mom is in the silent generation. She's 82.
Okay, I've never heard that term.
Yeah. So your feelings are valid, and your thought processes are also valid. And it may take you some extra time to mull it over, to be okay with it, to sit with your own feelings and thoughts. And parents of any age, young or old, especially if kids are from, some families are very, and there's different kinds, different religions and different spirituality and things like that. Some spirituality and some religions don't accept this at all. So you need to have a internal conversation with yourself of, okay, are you going to continue following the church, for example?
Mhm.
Or are you going to say, church, you're awesome, yet I need to do something different and go support my child? Um, Here in Calgary, before COVID, during COVID even, we had something called the YYC Coming Out Monologues. And it was one point, it was a 3-night festival of people sharing their coming out story. And there was one day that was all about coming out in faith and the stories of people who
Mm.
had a bit more of a spirituality or religious upbringing and
Yeah.
coming out as a young person or however old they are in that respect. And so just breathe. Know that your child is okay, or your grandchild is okay. Know that they're
Mhm.
going to be okay. They've trusted you. There's a reason why they've trusted you, even though it
Mhm.
may be as hard as heck to come out for them, yet they've trusted you. So be grateful for that and take a breath. If you have to go walk around the block or go to the river, like, go find somewhere and just ground yourself and know that your child is going to be okay because they've actually told you and they haven't kept it silent. They haven't been well, they could have been self-harming and maybe now they're not going to as much or not at all because they can live their truth. And thinking back to my coach, one of the lines that she had us write in our letters is, me living in my truth is more important than me living in fear.
Yeah. You know, the impact of what you're saying, they trusted you. You know, I can't even, I don't think, stress enough that how impactful that is for anyone. If someone comes out to you, that if you could put that forefront, like that is the extent of humanity. I trust you enough to be exactly who I am. And I think that is just so moving to even to really think that.
Yep.
So I want to say, okay, parents, you've had this reaction that you are probably regretting,
Mhm.
or even said things like it's just a phase, or it's because you're friends,
Mhm.
or and then they've taken your advice, Amy, and they've said, I'm just going to go for a walk now. When they come back, how can they retract? What can they say? What would you want to hear?
I would want to hear, I love you. And again, thank you for trusting me. Um, another sentence that may have to come out of your mouth is, you know, mom, dad, parent, um, I need to sit with this longer, or I need to do some work on my own. It's nothing to do with you. It's, I need to figure some things out about myself and I need to do some research, or I need to do some, you know, reading, or, look up some organizations or support for a parent so I can
Mhm.
get some help. So I can get some help to help you.
Yeah. And to be fair, the person coming out has had time. It's
Yes.
almost it's not a grieving process, but there is a process of acceptance and refusal and anger. Like all of that is still a process. And I'm not
Yes.
calling it a grieving because it is not a grieving. It is a coming out, it is a
Yes.
becoming, it is a born.
Yeah.
But to be fair, if I'm, coming out to someone who has absolutely no clue, yes, they would need time for sure. So,
Hmm.
when you are coming out, even as a kid, if you're coming out and you're thinking, oh, I didn't like that reaction,
Yeah.
take a breath as well. Like
Yeah.
we still have to, oh, that's how they reacted and they're never going to accept me. But that
Yeah.
might not be the case. It
Yeah.
might be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so important. Okay, so the kids who don't have this luxury,
Mm.
what are we telling them? Where are they going? Who are they calling? What can we do to support?
Hopefully they're going to a school that is open and accepting.
Yeah.
I know here in Calgary, for example, the public school system is more accepting than the Catholic school system. I don't know about the private school system. I haven't had much interaction with them. Yet I know the public school, a teacher, that's why I have a workshop, a day workshop for educators to learn how to create safe spaces, literal safe spaces in their school for kids to come and say, hey, I need help, or hey, I need to talk to somebody about something. Because you, the parent, or you, the teacher, or the staff member working at the school, in some cases, you see that child more than the parents see the child.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah.
And so to the caring adults, it's okay, educate yourself. And the same kind of reaction is take a breath and be okay. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for trusting me. Again, do you have the same questions? Same response. Do you have any questions? Let's go to the library. Let's go talk to our librarian in the school. And you as a caring adult, I know high schools have them. I'm not sure about the junior high or elementary, but the high schools a lot of the time have a guidance counselors or resource departments that can help the kids with X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I know in my high school where I went in Pine Ridge, my guidance counselors were awesome. Two of them happened to be also my swim coaches. So it was great fun. And so the guidance counselors or the resource people, even sometimes here in Calgary, some of our high schools have resource officers, school resource officers that are actually members of the Calgary Police Service, and they work in the schools. That's another option, another place to go to, because they'll probably have resources. And I'm guessing your guidance counselor's office would have resources. If you're a sports coach or a youth leader of some sort, coach, maybe ask this city, like where you live, like somebody who's more in charge of the organization, say, hey, do we have any resources for kids? If someone comes out to me, like, do we have somewhere we can go to help them? And just be that safe person. And years ago, I took a suicide prevention program situated more around youth and kids. And kids choose their safe person to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
I want to touch on, because I have such a pet peeve about how important is it that people ask for and appropriately use your pronouns of choice. So when I first started, we just talked about private school, and when I first started at private school about 3 years ago, there was a GSA that was almost, I don't know, it was very invisible, maybe. So for Pride Month, it was my first year there. For Pride Month, we painted the stairs the colors of the rainbow, and I went and got all the stickers because there was no safe stickers on all the doors, and I put them all on one morning. And so private schools are just run by a local board, right? The people that are in the school are the board. It's not like the Board of Education, like our big public schools. And I was almost reprimanded because, well, these things need to be brought to the board. And, sometimes they're slow to catch up. And there's no catching up to keeping a school safe. I'm not going to the board. The stickers are it was just the most, and it's not that they weren't open to it. They weren't opposed, but it had to go through all of this process. Well, it's not a friggin' election. People need to be safe, period. That's it. And then you would hear, then I had everyone put on their emails, their pronouns had to be on their emails. And when they introduced themselves to the class, I recommended that they introduce themselves with their pronouns so that kids felt safe with their own pronouns. Now, how important is it to you when someone says, what's your pronouns? And how important is it for you when you are working with the LGBTQ plus community as well? How
Yeah,
important is it to people?
really important. Um, you thinking from a work perspective, because it's now mostly common in many different workplaces. You're a safe person. I'm hoping you're a safe person I can talk to. If you have your pronouns in your email, if you are at an event or at the front of the room teaching, or you're at a meeting or whatever, and you go around the room, go around the class and say, hi, my name is Amy, my pronouns are she, her, then I feel safe. I feel accepted, I feel welcomed, and I feel like I belong.
Yeah. So
We could
important.
I know your podcast is more about like kids and teens, but we could do another whole story about like workplace and coming out at work. That's a whole story for another day.
Yeah. And you know what it is? It is called Teen Minds Redefined. But as we even talked about before, I'm talking to the parents
Mm-hmm.
because, first of all, teens don't listen to the same podcast their parents listen to. That would be so lame.
True.
So lame. Oh my God, I can't believe you even suggested that.
Yeah.
But if we're working, if we have stuff going on with our kids in any sense of the word, if we can start doing our own work,
Mm-hmm.
what's triggering us? What's scaring us because my kid came out? Why does that scare me? Where does that come from? Like it's all of that,
Yeah.
So
I,
that's why it's Teen Minds Redefined, but it's parents redefining their relationships with their teens. We don't, and it ripples out. And I love for people to share this episode, all my episodes, but this episode, because you may not have this in your life at all,
yeah.
but somebody does.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody does. Or you could now come out as a safe and caring adult for someone else who's listening.
Yeah.
Who would not be more honored than for somebody to say, I want to come out to you and
Mm-hmm.
I feel safe. And I can't think of a bigger compliment. I really
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. It's and thinking about allies, like especially in Alberta where I live, and Saskatchewan and New Brunswick, we need our allies right now.
Yeah.
We need our allies to say enough is enough. My child or my sexuality, my gender orientation is not a political thing
God.
to be arguing over, to be putting rules in schools for next year that, there's one in Alberta that's coming, possibly if everything goes through, that if a child under the age, I forget the age, but there's some sort of logistics about if a child comes out of a certain age to the teacher has to phone the parent and say, hey,
Oh my
your
God.
child wants to use this pronoun or this name. Is that okay? No, it's not okay
Yeah.
for the teacher to phone the parent.
No. This was the one wonderful thing about the private school is we were able to come to an agreement where if a kid said, this is my pronoun here, but it's not my pronoun at home,
Mm,
then teachers at this school were very respectful of that.
yeah.
And it was wonderful. Like it was wonderful because you could just see the layers come off the kids who just were not allowed to be
Yep.
who they were at home.
Yep. Yep.
So this is the
Yeah.
importance of these podcasts, of these people like Amy who are doing the work you do that I'm so grateful for, but even just sharing this stuff and talking about this stuff. And you might know a teacher whose school doesn't have this. You might know,
Mhm.
anybody that might just say, oh, Debbie, I was just listening to this podcast and, I'm right. Like
Mhm.
you just don't know who you're going to affect and touch.
Yeah.
And it's just like humanity. Like it's just humanity and it's
Mhm.
love and it's kindness. And who
Mhm.
doesn't need more of that?
I know. Yes, totally.
Right. Yeah. Amy, tell us how to work with you, where to find you. You are coming back. We're going to do a bullying episode. We may do a workplace episode. I don't know. We might just do
A
a whole
series.
series. But tell us how to work with you and how to find you.
Yes, I would love to. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show, and to all the listeners, thank you for listening. Please do share this out because it's going to save a child's life. How people can get a hold of me is through my website, aimehutton.ca. Aime is AIME. Hutton is HUTTON.ca. And I have a few different ways that people can work with me. I do one-on-one coaching for youth on their own coming out journey. I can be hired in to come to schools and do talks and workshops. I can be hired to come talk to businesses. This is a newer piece of what I've started, is to do queer one-on-one for businesses. Yeah. So there's lots of different things on my website. Another way to get a hold of me is through social media. That's how, Cheryl and I connected. And I said, Aime Hutton. I do have a business page of Inch by Inch Empowerment, which is my business name. That website, though, is broken at the moment, so I'm glad I have a secondary one. So Inch by Inch Empowerment, you can search that. There's a group actually on Facebook for caring adults who work with youth. And you want to connect. Good. And you want to have questions, and you want to, talk about things. Please go there. You do have to answer a couple of questions to be submitted and accepted into the group, yet it's a place just for caring adults to connect. There are a couple people in there that are like me, that don't have children yet maybe work with youth. Yeah, it's really good. The other way is LinkedIn. I have 2 LinkedIn profiles because I have my day job and my entrepreneur work. But you can find me that way. And yeah, but social media is the easier way, or the website, aimehutton.ca.
Okay. Everything is going in the show notes. Aime, thank you. You know what? Even if we touched one person's life, this is 1000% worth it. Any last words? Anything I didn't ask you about that you would really love to say?
Just, if your child comes out to you, say thank you, and know that you've actually saved their life. Yeah. And as I said earlier, above all else, please be brave, be bold, and be yourself.
Oh, I love it. What a beautiful way to end. Thank you for listening. Teen Minds Redefined. Share, subscribe, just give this to anybody. You just don't know what's going on in someone's life and how this can help. I really appreciate all my listeners, and thank you for listening.